Let us celebrate today's day. Today's day is not only a conference, an international conference day for ABUAD and her partners, but it's also the International Day for Eradication of Poverty, a day that reminds us of the urgency of our collective mission. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our students, we are grateful for your presence, and I wish us all a rewarding and impactful conference. Thank you.
The leadership remains the most decisive factor in shaping our collective destiny. The idea of Leadership 2.0 represents a new phase, one that challenges us to rethink leadership in the 21st century. It is leadership that is visionary, empathetic, accountable, and grounded in service to others. On behalf of Center LSD, I welcome you warmly to the Leadership Conference 2.0.
Mr. Governor is happy to be here, represented by me, and I hope that we all have a great time today. Thank you very much. God bless you all, and welcome to Ekiti State.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me, a cerebral scholar, an intelligent man, a leader par excellence, a founder, scholar, teacher, democrat, development expert, Dr. Otive Igbuzor. You're welcome, sir.
In a world characterized by volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, disruption, and diversity, otherwise known as VUCAD, what is required is not transactional leaders focused on short-term gains, but transformational leadership. Leadership that envisions and drives fundamental change. As we leave this conference, let us commit to being those leaders. Leaders of vision, virtue, and value. For the future of Africa will not be determined by chance, but by choice. The choice to lead with integrity, to act with courage, and to serve with humility. May this conference ignite a continental movement of transformational leadership that rebuilds trust, renews hope, and reclaim Africa's destiny. And may history remember that we stood at the crossroads and chose to lead Africa into an ethical, innovative, and prosperous future. Thank you, and may God bless Africa.
We are very proud of you. We thank you, and I wish you all safe journeys back to your destinations. God bless you all.
In all that tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all and proud to serve our sovereign motherland. Our flag shall be a symbol that truth and justice reign. In peace or battle honored, and this we count as gain. To hang on to our children a banner without stain. Oh God of all creation, grant this our one request. Help us to build a nation where no man is oppressed. And so with peace and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, now that we know each other and one another as the case may be, may I, with your permission, invite to this side of the arena our Vice Chancellor, whether you like it or yes, the best Vice Chancellor in Nigeria today, Professor Smaranda Olarinde, to please welcome the totality of us to the house this morning.
Let us celebrate today's day. Today's day is not only a conference, an international conference day for ABUAD and her partners, but it's also the International Day for Eradication of Poverty, a day that reminds us of the urgency of our collective mission. As poverty is not merely the absence of wealth, it is the absence of opportunity, justice, and vision. On this note, I want to ask for the permission to adopt the already established protocol. However, His Excellency, sir, the Executive Governor of Ekiti State, ably represented here by the Chief of Staff, you are most welcome, sir. Our very distinguished guests, friends from diaspora, most especially the President of Trinity Western University, Vancouver, Canada, Sir Dr. Todd Martin, I recognize you. Again, I want to recognize our very distinguished keynote speaker of today, Dr. Otive Igbuzor, who is the founding director of the African Center for Leadership, Strategy and Development, Abuja. You are highly recognized. Our eminent panelists, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen of the press. It is my greatest honor and pleasure to welcome you all to this milestone conference, themed Shaping Transformational Leaders for a Changing World, Tackling Insecurity, Governance, and Development. Today's conference is another timely reminder of the transformative power of collaboration. Let's remember that Goal 17 of the United Nations Sustainable Development, SDG 17, indeed emphasizes the vital importance of international, regional, and public-private partnership in tackling several of the challenges facing our world. Whether we are speaking of insecurity, hunger, poverty, infrastructural decay, or economic uncertainties. None of these can be effectively addressed in isolation. This is why, as a research-oriented university, we value transformational opportunities for knowledge exchange, public dialogue, and collaborative research, especially with leading institutions such as the Trinity Western University, Vancouver, Canada. I want to also state with all sense of recognition that Times Higher Education Impact Rankings representative is here with us, watching us. Mr. Victor, I highly recognize you, and you shall be properly recognized by my colleagues as well. Thank you for being here with us all the way from the United Kingdom. At this juncture, I also want to let you know, our distinguished audience, that we have from diaspora over 1,500 delegates who are here with us. I also acknowledge you and thank you for joining us on Zoom. Our international approach has already gained global recognition, including in the latest Times Higher Education World University Impact Rankings, which placed our institution as number 1 in Nigeria, number 3 on the continent, and number 84 in the world. We are also proud to have received the approval of the National Agency for Food Administration and Control, NAFDAC, for our homegrown medical homegrown malaria vaccine and ABUAD herbal vaccine liquids. The research breakdowns across our law, medicine, international relations, engineering and science programs are simply too numerous for me to mention them here. These achievements will not have been possible without the exceptional foresight and vision of our highly revered legendary founder, our founder, chancellor, and principal stakeholder in the Nigeria education landscape. Afe Babalola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, CON, OFR, DLIT, LLD, Honoris Causa, London, etc., and his highly supported wives. Our founder's words of wisdom, I quote him, he always reminds us that education is the best way to escape from the cold hands of hunger, poverty, and violence. This has been our driving force. We are fully committed to his vision and quest to make the world a better place through transformational education. Ladies and gentlemen, path-breaking research such as success and innovation is not achieved overnight. It's hard work. It is through conferences just like this that we learn new ways of tackling the very complex challenges of our times. The underlying theme of this timely conference is to explore the essential imperatives of transformational leadership that could unlock sustainable development and share prosperity for our societies, our nations, and the world. We have gathered eminent speakers from Canada. We thank you for coming, and beyond, who have graciously agreed to share their expertise with us. I therefore enjoin you all participants to listen attentively and engage actively in our conversations. Let me end by thanking the leadership of Trinity Western University, Canada, for partnering with us in this milestone conference. This is the second in this series. I also extend my special congratulations and thanks to the Conference Planning Committee, particularly to Professor Bayo Ogundipe and to Professor Adenira Afolalu for their tireless commitment and efforts in organizing this important conference. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our students, we are grateful for your presence, and I wish us all a rewarding and impactful conference. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Madam Vice Chancellor. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I, with your permission, invite Mr. Monday Osesa, the Executive Director, Center LSD, for his own welcome address. Let's celebrate him, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to stand on the already established protocol and to join the previous speakers to welcome all of us to this conference. It gives me great pleasure on behalf of the African Center for Leadership, Strategy and Development to welcome you all to the Leadership Conference 2.0, a gathering born out of vision, partnership, and a shared belief that leadership remains the most decisive factor in shaping our collective destiny. When we, as Center LSD, began our journey over a decade ago, we were driven by a simple conviction that everything rises and falls on leadership, whether in governance, business, academia, or community life. Leadership determines success or failure. Over the years, this conviction has only grown stronger. And today, standing here with our partners from Afe Babalola University, ABUAD, Nigeria, Trinity Western University, Vancouver, Canada, I am reminded that leadership development is not a solitary task. It thrives in collaboration. The idea of Leadership 2.0 represents a new phase, one that challenges us to rethink leadership in the 21st century. It is leadership that is visionary, empathetic, accountable, and grounded in service to others. It is leadership that responds to the complexity of our time, complexity such as complexity thrown up by technology, climate change, inequality, and governance, with creativity and courage. I am reminded of a story we often share at Center LSD. During one of our leadership training, a young participant asked, "Can one person really make a difference?" And we answered, "Leadership begins the moment you decide to make things better, no matter where you stand." That, to me, captures the spirit of this conference. Our gathering today, apart from it being a meeting of minds, it is a call to action. It is an opportunity to reflect, to engage, and to equip ourselves with the values and skills needed to lead our nation towards sustainable development. Let me, at this juncture, appreciate our partners, Afe Babalola University, Nigeria, and Trinity Western University, Vancouver, Canada, for their willingness to collaborate. I also commend our speakers, facilitators, and participants who have shown commitment to advancing the frontiers of leadership education and practice. As we begin the day's deliberation, May we listen deeply and act decisively. May this conference not end with fine speeches, but let it inspire real transformation in our institutions, communities, nation, and continent. Once again, on behalf of Center LSD, I welcome you warmly to the Leadership Conference 2.0. Thank you, and I wish all of us very fruitful deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. The Executive Governor of this great state, Mr. Biodun Abayomi Oyebanji, aka Bao, ably represented by the Chief of Staff, Honorable Niyi Adebayo, to please address the House.
Good morning, everyone. Madam Vice Chancellor and members of the leadership team of the university, our distinguished keynote speaker, Dr. Otive Igbuzor, and distinguished panelists, erudite professors here present, other members of the academic community, students, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor and privilege for me to be here in your presence this morning to discuss what I consider a very important and timely topic. Unfortunately, Mr. Governor couldn't come due to schedule conflict, and he has asked me to come here to represent him. He sends warm greetings to you all, and he says to also say good morning and to greet especially our founder, revered leader, Baba Afe Babalola, to wish him well and to pray that the Lord will continue to keep him healthy and strong, even as he continues to invest in Ekiti State. Let me state this morning that indeed this topic, as I said earlier on, is very relevant and the timing is most appropriate. Even though one can argue that insecurity in the nation is on the decline, but it's still at a level that is unacceptable, and we must all work together to try to fix the problem and bring an end to it, so that indeed the Nigeria that we all talk about, which is a country not just of great potential, but a country that is truly great, can be actualized even in our time. One of the things that we see is, if you look at the topic, there's the matter of insecurity, governance, and development. And all of the three are very intertwined. One may argue about how insecurity leads to development challenges, and how failure in terms of governance leads to insecurity and in turn leads to development challenges. You find that indeed it's a vicious cycle, because lack of development is also one of the things that prepares the ground, the breeding ground for insecurity. Unemployment, for example, makes it easy for people to take laws into their hands and do all kinds of things, when indeed, if they had been gainfully employed, they might have, employed their energy and time differently. But I hope that the conversation today, the deliberations, especially from the keynote speaker, his presentation, and the deliberations by the discussants, will come up with very interesting ideas and suggestions that those of us in government can adopt and add to some of the solutions that we are trying to prefer, so that indeed we can make our country safer for all of us to live, work, and also to relax. Let me state clearly that, yes, I'll be here really listening and jotting all the points so that I can take some feedback back to Mr. Governor. So on this note, let me clearly say that, yes, Mr. Governor is happy to be here, represented by me, and I hope that we all have a great time today. Thank you very much. God bless you all, and welcome to Ekiti State.
With your permission, ladies and gentlemen, may I invite the university orator, Dr. Afe Babalola, to please give us a brief citation of the keynote speaker. Thank you.
May I please ask that Dr. Otive Igbuzor please rise. Thank you. Dr. Otive Igbuzor, the guest lecturer, is the founding executive director of the African Center for Leadership, Strategy, and Development. He was the chief of staff to the deputy president of the Senate in the 9th National Assembly. He was also one-time international head of campaigns of Action Aid International and country director of Action Aid Nigeria. He was an honorable commissioner in the Police Service Commission from 2008 to 2013, representing civil society. Prior to joining Action Aid, he was the program coordinator of Center for Democracy and Development, an independent research, information, and training institution dedicated to policy-oriented scholarships on questions of democratic development and peace building in the West African sub-region. He was the Secretary of Citizens Forum for Constitutional Reform, a coalition of over 100 civil society organizations committed to a process-led and participatory approach to constitutional reforms in Nigeria. Previously, he was a lecturer at the Delta State University and has published many scholarly articles on democracy, gender, politics, and development. He is the author of several books, including Perspectives on Democracy and Development, Challenges of Development in Nigeria, amongst other books. In all, he has 55 academic publications, including 12 books and 16 articles in local and international journals. Dr. Igbuzor holds a bachelor's degree in pharmacy, 2 master's degrees in public administration and international relations, and a doctorate degree in public administration, specializing in policy analysis. He was a founding and leading member of many human rights and mass democratic organizations in Nigeria in the 1980s and 90s. He is a member of many professional associations, including the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, the Nigerian Political Science Association, the Institute of Strategic Management, and the Nigerian Institute of Management. He sits on the board of several organizations, including the Ondo Foundation, the Police Health Maintenance Limited, the Center for Women's Health and Information, the Nigerian Women's Trust Fund, and partnership opportunities for women empowerment realization. In recognition of his leadership roles, he was appointed by the immediate past Secretary General of the United Nations into the global network of men leaders to end violence against women. Mr. Ban Ki-moon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me a cerebral scholar, an intelligent man, a leader par excellence, a founder, scholar, teacher, democrat, development expert, Dr. Otive Igbuzor. You're welcome, sir.
Madam Vice Chancellors of ABUAD and FUTA, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, partners, and students, it is a great honor to deliver this keynote address at this landmark international conference on leadership and governance for sustainable change and wealth creation. The title of the keynote is Transformational Leadership in an Insecure and Disruptive Era, Building Ethical, Resilient, and Impactful Leaders for Africa. I commend ABUAD, Trinity Western University, and Center LSD for the vision in convening this gathering. At a time when our world, and particularly Africa, is undergoing rapid, complex, and often disruptive transformations. The theme of this conference, Shaping Transformational Leaders for a Changing World, Tackling Insecurity, Governance, and Development, is not only timely, but imperative. Across the globe, societies are grappling with multiple intersecting crises: climate change, insecurity, economic inequality, technological disruption, and democratic backsliding. The quality of leadership has become the single most critical determinant of whether nations will thrive or falter in the face of these challenges. Leadership has long been recognized as one of the most decisive variables that determine the trajectory of nations and organizations. As Chinua Achebe famously noted, the trouble with Nigeria is simply and squarely a failure of leadership. This observation remains profoundly relevant today. Recent studies indicate that the world is experiencing a leadership crisis, with 86% of global experts identifying inadequate leadership as a major challenge to solving contemporary problems. In Nigeria and many parts of Africa, this crisis manifests in poor governance, insecurity, elite capture, weak institutions, exclusionary politics, and underdevelopment despite vast human and material resources. The persistence of insecurity, from terrorism and banditry to communal conflicts and organized crime, exposes deep governance gaps. Inadequate leadership has contributed to the inability to craft inclusive, evidence-based strategies for nation building and security sector transformation. Economic and development challenges are compounded by corruption, lack of long-term planning, weak public institutions, and exclusion of large segments of the population, including youth, women, and marginalized communities, from governance and development processes. In order to change the trajectory of development across the world, especially in Africa, there is an urgent need to build transformational leaders. This is why the theme of this keynote, Transformational Leadership in an Insecure and Disruptive Era, Building Resilient, Ethical, and Impactful Leaders for Africa, is very relevant and urgent. We live in a world defined by insecurity, volatility, and disruption. From violent conflict and terrorism to climate crisis, artificial intelligence, and economic uncertainty, Africa finds itself at a crossroad between promise and peril. The continent's trajectory in the next decade will depend not merely on resources or technology, but on the quality of leadership that emerges to navigate this complex era. Leadership is the most important variable that affects the performance and development of any organization or nation. Indeed, as John Maxwell reminds us, everything rises and falls on leadership. Understanding transformational leadership. Leadership has been defined in various ways. John Maxwell describes it simply as influence, while Miles Monroe sees it as the ability to inspire others to pursue a common purpose. Transformational leadership goes beyond influencing people or maintaining systems. Transformational leadership is about changing people and societies for better. It is characterized by vision, integrity, empathy, and a strong moral compass. According to scholars, transformational leaders motivate followers to exceed expectations by appealing to higher ideals and values. They act as change agents who challenge the status quo, stimulate innovation, and prioritize long-term goals without compromising ethical principles. Africa faces multifaceted challenges: governance deficits, economic inequality, insecurity, and erosion of values. Transformational leadership is thus not a luxury. It is a necessity for national rebirth. It emphasizes character, vision, and the ability to mobilize people for positive change. Transformational leaders differ from transactional ones. While transactional leaders focus on compliance, performance, and rewards, transformational leaders seek to transform mindset, institutions, and values. They inspire followers to think beyond personal gain, creating self-perpetuating systems of integrity and innovation. Transformational leadership is about change, not cosmetic change, but deep transformation in values, vision, and systems. It transcends daily management concern to focus on long-term goals, meaning, and moral purpose. The context: insecurity, disruption, and transformational leadership. The 21st century has unleashed multiple disruptions: technological, social, political, and environmental. In Africa, these are compounded by endemic insecurity and governance crisis. We face terrorism, banditry, farmer-herder clashes, coup, political instability, and economic exclusion. These insecurities are symptoms of deeper structural issues: weak institutions, leadership failures, and erosion of public trust. Technological disruption adds another layer. Artificial intelligence, automation, and the digital revolution are transforming labor markets and governance. Yet, Africa lags behind in adopting to this new order. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed both our fragility and our potential. This is the reality of the disruptive era, where change is constant and uncertainty is the new normal. The question is not how to avoid disruption, but how to lead through it. In a world characterized by volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, disruption, and diversity, otherwise known as VUCAD, what is required is not transactional leaders focused on short-term gains, but transformational leadership. Leadership that envisions and drives fundamental change. Now to building transformational leaders, framework and practice. Leadership, contrary to popular belief, can be learned. As Ms. Moreau stated, true leaders are not born, they are made. And as Amandla, the cultural wind of ANC stated, leaders are not born, they are produced during the course of the struggle. Ms. Moreau put it aptly. There is leadership potential in every person. Despite this universal latent ability, very few individuals realize this power, and fewer still have responded effectively to the call. As a result, our nations, societies, and communities are suffering from an astounding leadership void. At the African Center for Leadership Strategy and Development, Center LSD, we have over the past 1.5 decades demonstrated that leadership skills can be cultivated through structured education, mentorship, and practice. Our leadership schools train leaders who embody vision, discipline, and service, and who go on to transform their workplaces, communities, and nations. We have graduated 3,020 students over the past 16 years with outstanding testimonies. Developing transformational leaders involves nurturing key traits: integrity, focus, empathy, courage, and a commitment to developing others. It also required institutional mechanisms, leadership schools, mentoring network, and intergenerational dialogues to ensure leadership continuity. Research and experience demonstrates that leaders are made, not born. Drawing from over 16 years of leadership development through the Center LSD Leadership School, we have identified 5 pillars for shaping transformational leaders. 1, vision and strategic thinking. 2, values and integrity. 3, problem solving and innovation. 4, influence and people development. And 5, adaptive capacity. Transformational leadership development must be intentional and institutionalized through leadership academies, universities, civil service reforms, political party recruitment processes, and civil society platforms. This is why the partnership between Afe Babalola University, ABUAD, Nigeria, Trinity Western University, Vancouver, Canada, and African Center for Leadership Strategy and Development, Center LSD, Abuja, Nigeria, is timely, strategic, and potentially revolutionary in changing the leadership trajectory across the world. Trinity Western University is arguably the global leader in leadership education, emphasizing value-based leadership, servant leadership, ethical formation, and character development. Its offerings include Master of Arts in Leadership, Graduate Certificate in Leadership and Education, Leadership Certificate, BA in Leadership, MA in Educational Leadership, and other specialized streams and sectorial leadership. ABUAD was founded by Afe Babalola in 2009 with mission-oriented towards excellence, human capital development, and nation building. The university has contributed to addressing the leadership deficit in Nigeria through education, character formation, and opportunities for governance and service through international leadership and governance conferences, taught leadership to public lectures, value, character, and ethical emphasis, partnership, and institutional messaging. The founder, Afe Babalola, is a role model in leadership, philanthropy, and educational efforts. He received the Afe Babalola Leadership Award in 2018 for exuding excellence in leadership qualities and for his contribution to human capital development through education. Today, ABUAD is arguably the fastest growing private university in Africa. Ethical imperative of leadership in Africa. Across Africa, the crisis of governance, underdevelopment, and corruption points not to a lack of resources or talent, but to a profound deficit in ethical leadership. The moral compass of leaders shape institutions, influence public trust, and determines whether power serves the people or enslaves them. Ethical leadership entails leading with integrity, transparency, fairness, and accountability. It goes beyond technical competence or charisma to the moral disposition of leaders who act in the public interest. As Aristotle taught, ethical virtue is not an abstract ideal, but a habit formed through consistent right action. Ethical leaders embody honesty, justice, and service. They lead not merely by authority, but by moral example. African Renaissance, therefore, demands leaders who are ethical visionaries, men and women who see public office as stewardship, not ownership. Ethical leadership requires setting the tone at the top, living out the values of honesty, humility, and accountability. Leaders must build systems that prevent corruption through transparency, open governance, and citizen engagement. Ethical codes of conduct should be enforced in public institutions, complemented by civic education that nurtures moral consciousness among citizens. Luckily, there are African philosophical thoughts upon which ethical and collective leadership can be built. African leadership traditions are deeply rooted in indigenous philosophies that emphasize communalism, accountability, and human dignity. Among these traditions is Ubuntu, a South African philosophy summarized as "I am because we are." Ubuntu underscores interconnectedness, mutual respect, and the prioritization of community well-being over individual ambition. Similarly, the Yoruba philosophy of Omoluabi celebrates the leader as a person of virtue and integrity, honest, respectful, and courageous and just, whose character is molded by and accountable to the community. We have similar concepts of Sankofa from Ghana, Ujamaa from Tanzania, Harambee from Kenya. The concept of Harambee from Kenya means let us pull together. And this has been adopted by many communities in Africa. The Urhobos of Nigeria call it Oshobe. Among the Igbo of Nigeria, the principle of Ohaneze emphasizes that people, Oha, with the king Eze, frames leadership as stewarding communal will through the council of elders, age grades, and assemblies. These African philosophies share a moral foundation, emphasizing dignity, virtue, consensus, and community. They contrast with the individualistic paradigms of Western leadership models by centering humanity, interdependence, and service. Hence, effective African leadership must recognize these indigenous principles with contemporary governance and development challenges to produce leaders who are ethical, inclusive, and transformative. Given the continent's persistent challenges, bad governance, corruption, unemployment, gender inequality, and environmental degradation, Africa requires a new generation of leaders who can challenge conventional approaches, inspire shared visions, and promote innovation. The type of leadership Africa needs is dynamic, strategic, visionary, and transformative. Leaders who empower others, leaders who think systematically, and leaders who are anchored on ethical and inclusive principles. Transformative African leaders must possess the courage to reimagine systems and structures to achieve equity, justice, and sustainable development. They must move beyond personal and organizational interests to embrace public value and community flourishing. Such leaders embody ethical leadership grounded in integrity, transparency, and accountability, and inclusive leadership characterized by recognition and engagement of diverse voices, including women, youth, persons with disability, and marginalized communities. Now we turn to building resilient and impactful leaders for Africa. Resilient leaders learn from failure. They adapt rather than collapse under pressure. Impactful leaders move beyond rhetoric to measurable action. They design systems that serve people. They build accountability into governance and ensure that progress is inclusive. As Bass and Avolio noted, transformational leaders are change agents who mobilize followers around values and vision rather than fear or cohesion. To build resilient and impactful leaders, 4 dimensions are essential. Number 1, vision and purpose. Number 2, values and integrity. Number 3, adaptability and innovation. And number 4, multiplication and mentorship. Leadership, governance, and institutional strengthening. Across Africa, the progress or stagnation of nations is largely determined by the quality of leadership, the effectiveness of governance, and the strength of institutions. Leadership defines vision. Governance translates that vision into policy and practice. And institutions ensure that such policies are sustained and delivered effectively. Where any of these 3 is weak, development suffers. In the African context, these elements are often undermined by corruption, weak accountability mechanism, and personalization of power. However, the failure of leadership inevitably translates into weak governance and dysfunctional institutions, a vicious circle that must be broken if Africa is to achieve inclusive and sustainable development. Transformational leadership offers a way forward. It calls for ethical, visionary, and servant leaders who inspire citizens and strengthen governance systems rather than exploit them. Leadership is not about domination. It is about stewardship. The African imperative towards an ethical and innovative future. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Africa stands today at a defining moment in its history, facing unprecedented challenges, but also unparalleled opportunities. The 21st century presents us with a dual reality. On one hand, the disruptive forces of technology, insecurity, and global inequality. And on the other, the promise of democratic advantage, innovation, and moral awakening. The African imperative is clear. We must build a future anchored on ethics, innovation, and inclusive governance. The prosperity and dignity of our continent will not emerge from the abundance of resources alone, but from the quality of our leadership, the integrity of our systems, and the creativity of our people. The second pillar is innovation. The future of Africa depends on our ability to harness creativity and technology for inclusive growth. As the fourth industrial revolution unfolds, Africa cannot remain a consumer of foreign technology. It must become a producer of ideas and solutions. Innovation, however, is not limited to technology. It includes innovative governance, education, and social organization. In Africa, we must envision, the Africa we envision must be guided by 5 imperatives. Number 1, ethical leadership. Number 2, innovative education. Number 3, institutional integrity. Number 4, inclusive governance. And number 5, continental collaboration. This is the pathway to the Africa we want. Ethical, innovative, and globally competitive. Africa Renaissance will not be imported. It will be imagined, built, and led by Africans who believe that transformation begins with integrity and innovation. As Nelson Mandela once said, it always seems impossible until it is done. In conclusion, distinguished participants, the time to act is now. Africa cannot wait for another generation to do what ours failed to do. The mantle of transformation rests upon us, leaders in government, academia, civil society, business, and the faith community. We must rise above complacency and cynicism to reimagine the future we deserve and desire. Let us institutionalize leadership training across our schools and universities, ensuring that leadership formation becomes as essential as literacy. Let us reform governance to reward merit, integrity, and innovation, rather than mediocrity and patronage. Let us deliberately cultivate a continental network of ethical, value-driven, and impact-oriented leaders, men and women who are not prisoners of the past, but architects of the future. We must mainstream youth and gender inclusion, not as a token of progress, but as a strategic imperative for sustainability. And we must strengthen collaboration across the continent through platforms such as the African Union, ECOWAS, and civil society networks that connect vision to action and ideas to impact. The time has come for Africa to lead with conscience, to govern with courage, and to innovate with compassion. This is the moment to transform our values into vision, our knowledge into impact, and our collective dreams into enduring legacies. Leadership remains both Africa's greatest challenge and its greatest opportunity. The insecurity and disruptions of our time are not signs of defeat, but invitations to courage. Every generation is called to shape history. As Frank Fanon reminds us, that every generation out of relative obscurity must discover its mission, fulfill it, or God betrayed. Ours is to redeem it. Let us therefore build leaders who are ethical in conduct, resilient in adversity, and impactful in service. Leaders who do not just occupy office, but transform society. Who do not merely react to disruption, but harness it to create progress. Who do not live for applause, but for purpose. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we leave this conference, let us commit to being those leaders. Leaders of vision, virtue, and value. For the future of Africa will not be determined by chance, but by choice. The choice to lead with integrity, to act with courage, and to serve with humility. May this conference ignite a continental movement of transformational leadership that rebuilds trust, renews hope, and reclaim Africa's destiny. And may history remember that we stood at the crossroads and choose to lead Africa into an ethical, innovative, and prosperous future. Thank you, and may God bless Africa.
Thank you so very much, sir. Those of us in the ABUAD community will remember that in November 2023, during the annual teaching pedagogy workshop, one of our leaders in the academia said, it's not necessary to clap for somebody after delivering a lecture. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I find it difficult not to ask us to clap for this gentleman. He has done noble. He has done well. He was not only articulate, the paper is rich and educative. Let's celebrate him, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much. Our guest lecturer, sir, on behalf of the totality of us here, we want to thank you. Your presentation is not only rich, you were articulate. Everybody heard you. If there's anybody in the hall who did not hear you, we have to investigate. We appreciate you, sir. God bless you.
We go into discussion session.
May I, with your permission, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, invite to this side of the arena the Commander, Nigeria Defense Academy, Kaduna, Major General A.K. Ibrahim, OFR, represented.
Please permit me to stand on the existing protocol. Before I start to talk about this paper, I want to talk about the owner of the paper. I wish to congratulate the presenter. When I heard his voice, I was a little bit harassed. I remember my days as a young officer in the Nigerian Defense Academy, when my commanders will issue orders in their loudest voice. So I want to encourage you all, if you were younger, I would have advised you to join the military, the Nigerian Army. Then when you are being commissioned to join the infantry corps, where you don't need microphone to talk. Notwithstanding, I want to commend you. What you have done here, what you have just given to us, is passion. You are telling us what leadership entails. And I personally appreciate you for that. Thank you very much, sir. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my job here is very simple. Just to talk about that paper that has just been passionately
delivered. I would not like to go into the entire paper, but because that would be redundant. My reflection instead will revolve around 4 broad observations. Number 1, the meaning and test of transformational leadership in Africa's current reality. Number 2, the context of insecurity and disruption. While 3 will be on the moral and institutional imperative for resilience. And number 4, some practical pathways for building ethical and impactful leaders across the continent. Let us begin where the paper began, with understanding transformational leadership. The presenter reminds us that transformational leadership is not merely about charisma or vision statements. It is about values-driven influence, inspiring people to move from self-interest to collective purpose. I stand here to completely agree with the presenter, but I would like to add that in the African context, transformational leadership must also mean reconstruction, rebuilding broken trust, broken system, and broken homes. Our post-colonial experience has often produced transformational leaders, those who trade loyalty for benefits. That's what we have been having in Africa, which has to change. And according to the presenter, it must change now or never. Transformational leaders, on the other hand, trade comfort for change. They take the hard road, reforming institutions, confronting corruption, and lifting others, even at personal cost. Let us think of someone like Nelson Mandela's moral courage, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's quest, resilience, and of course, Thomas Sankara's passionate idealism. Their stories remind us that leadership in Africa is not about position. It is about purpose, persuasion, and personal sacrifice. Their stories remind us that leadership in Africa is not about position. So the first point from the paper, and which I wish to underline, is that Africa's renewal will depend not on the number of leaders we have, but on the depth of their transformation. The second point, the context. Insecurity, disposition, and disruption. Now, the paper situates transformational leadership in an insecure and disruptive era. And that is not an exaggeration. Insecurity today is multidimensional, from terrorism and insurgency to food insecurity, cyber threats, and moral collapse. Disruption, too, is everywhere. Technological, economic, and social. AI is changing the world of work. Climate change is reshaping livelihoods, and digital media is reshaping truth itself. In Nigeria and many parts of the West African sub-region, the leadership disposition in this environment matters more than ever. Because in times of disruption, followers look for direction, not domination. A transformational leader must therefore demonstrate three key qualities. One, clarity of purpose, to calm the noise of uncertainties. Number two, empathy, to understand the human cost of insecurity. And of course, adaptability, to manage change rather than resist it. In all honesty, many African leaders have struggled here. Insecurity has often been met with force rather than foresight, with suppression rather than strategy. But the real challenge is not just to fight insecurity. It is to lead people out of fear into hope. That, in my view, is what separates ordinary leaders from transformational ones. Number 3 point is building transformational leaders, the framework and practice. The presenter proposes frameworks for developing transformational leaders. Let me build on that with 3 practical pillars that, in my experience, matter deeply in Africa. First, education. But not just formal education. Leadership education must include moral intelligence, the capacity to make ethical choices under pressure. Many of our current challenges stem not from ignorance, but from the failure to translate knowledge into integrity. Number 2, mentorship and institutional culture. You cannot produce transformational leaders in transactional environments. If a young civil servant, for instance, sees that merit is punished and mediocrity rewarded, his own leadership potential dies very early. We must therefore redesign our public institutions and political parties to reward vision, competence, and service. Number 3, accountability. Transformational leaders thrive in the sunlight of accountability, when leaders know they will be held responsible for their decisions, they govern differently. So, leadership development in Africa must move beyond workshops to systems that discipline and reward ethical behavior. Leadership cannot transform society until society transforms the way it produces its leaders. Ethical imperative of leadership in Africa. This, I think, is one of the most profound sections of the paper, the ethical dimension. Because in Africa today, the crisis is not just one of policy, but of character. We have good plans, sound visions, and endless roadmaps, but very little moral stamina to execute them. The ethical leader is not necessarily a saint. He or she is simply consistent, transparent, and trustworthy. Ethics gives legitimacy, legitimacy gives stability, and stability produces development. So, when we talk about ethical leadership, we are talking about security itself. Because where justice and fairness prevail, conflict reduces. Where leaders show restraint, citizens show respect. Ethics, then, is not an academic luxury. It is a governance necessity. The presenter's argument here that transformational leadership must be grounded in ethics is absolutely central to Africa's future. Without ethical leadership, no reform, no investment, and no innovation can endure. Building resilience and impactful leaders, governance and institutional strength. Another important insight from the paper is that resilience and impact require institutional strength. Leadership in Africa often collapses because institutions are weak, laws are personalized, and systems depend on individuals. However, transformational leadership demands the opposite. Institutions that are stronger than the personalities occupying them. To achieve that, three things are essential: predictability, continuity, and integrity. In Nigeria, for example, we have seen good policies derailed by leadership changes or political expediency. Transformational leadership must therefore prioritize institutional. Ethical innovations means using technology for inclusion, not exploitation, for transparency, not manipulation. And that is the future Africa must build. An Africa that leads with conscience and completes with creativity. Finally, in conclusion, let me commend the presenter for a deeply insightful work. It challenges us to rethink leadership beyond slogans, to focus on who we become while we lead. If I may summarize in one sentence, transformational leadership is not about power, it is about purpose. And the time has come for Africa to rediscover that purpose. Ethical, resilient, and impactful. I thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. May I quickly invite to this side of the arena Dr. Mbezim George as a discussant, and our sister, Professor Adenike Temidayo. Oladiji VC Futa to be upstanding and be on this side of the arena as a discussant. We will go for the next next on the agenda is a goodwill message by Mr. Victor Keugo, the Business Development Manager of Time Higher Education.
Distinguished leaders, esteemed scholars, policymakers, and participants. Like we say in Nigeria, I stand on existing protocol, but I especially want to recognize the Vice Chancellor and the founder, Afe Babalola. It is a privilege to bring you warm greetings on behalf of Times Higher Education. We are honored to join this year's International Leadership Conference on Leadership, Governance, Sustainable Change, and Wealth Creation, which focuses on the timely and vital theme, shaping transformational leaders for a changing world, tackling insecurity, governance, and development. This theme speaks directly to the heart of the global challenges before us. Across nations, we are witnessing profound transformations in governance, education, and societal values. In such a world, transformational leadership is not optional. It is indispensable. At Times Higher Education, we see daily how higher education institutions are nurturing the kind of leaders our changing world needs. Through our global respected impact rankings, which measure universities' success in advancing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, we celebrate institutions that translate knowledge into meaningful action for society. And like the previous speaker, the keynote speaker said, the time to act is now. We commend the Center for Leadership, Strategy and Development and Trinity Western University for their partnership in convening this important forum. Going back to our 2025 THE Impact Rankings, these rankings revealed remarkable progress across Africa, including outstanding performance from Afe Babalola University, which ranked among the top institutions globally for its initiative promoting quality education, decent work and economic growth, and peace, justice, and strong institutions. These achievements reflect a deep commitment to the very ideals this conference upholds. And just to note, I think it is remarkable to mention that in this last impact rankings, Afe Babalola University ranked as #1 in Nigeria and number 84 globally. I think that deserves a bit of a round of applause. As deliberations unfold throughout today's event, we at Times Higher Education reaffirm our support for global partnerships, data-driven insights, and the celebration of excellence that drives societal transformation. We believe that sustainable development depends on informed, principled leadership, and that universities remain the greatest incubators of such leadership. Finally, on behalf of Times Higher Education, I congratulate the organizers and partners for this inspiring initiative and extend our best wishes for a successful and impactful conference. May the conversations here today strengthen our collective resolve to build societies defined by peace, equity, and sustainable progress. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
It's good to be here, and I'll try to do it in 4 minutes. I want to set the stage for you. Dr. Lee has spoken about the rapid speed of innovation. I want you to think of music. Music is very universal in itself, right? If you live in China, in Canada, here in Africa, if you can read music, you can play music. The other area that I see is human capital. 2 countries, 1 continent, 1 country, Africa and India, hold the largest human capital in the world. The other thing I want you also to think very closely is languages. I believe in the next 8 to 10 years, languages will become obsolete. And this is a radical shift into where we are today. Innovation and technology is really moving us to a completely different place. In North America, we hear so much and we are known so much about school shootings. Young people going to a school and taking the lives of other children. In Africa, we are known for coups from country to country. But then there is this young generation, Gen Zs. Friends, Africa is no longer at a crossroads. Technology is redefining everything we know and we are. And as we begin to think about the future of Africa or the rest of the world, we need to look very closely to the young people seated behind us here today. Their future is technological driven. A future that is not the same like you and I when we were growing up. When I spoke about the era of the end of military coups in Africa, it's true because the young generation that are growing up today with technology will not think about going overseas or the next country to bomb and destroy it. They will use technology. And so as we imagine the future of the world driven by a young generation, it's a future that is going to be very different. It's a future that is not going to be driven by languages, Chinese, Mandarin, Hausa, Kiswahili, or French, because they're becoming obsolete. Technology is going to merge us to a place where we begin to function as a society with a goal of becoming better. So in this stage, as I finish, in today's interconnected world, the very definition of security has evolved. We are no longer just talking about traditional military defense. Contemporary threats are a complex interwoven tapestry. This includes things like hybrid warfare, with mixes of traditional military tactics, with unconventional methods like disinformation and cybersecurity, cyber attacks, as we've been told. The threats today demand innovative and multifaceted responses, shifting away from solely military-centric approach to understanding how, as academias, schools, we can move our young generation forward. Broader security challenges do encourage us to look at the whole aspect of humanity beyond the threats of natural disasters and the global effects we're experiencing, to begin to look at what do we need to do? How do we need to begin to listen again? The Arab Spring came and gone. And in Africa, we've been experiencing the African Spring. From South Africa to East Africa to West Africa, Gen Zs are redefining what it means to be heard of, to be countries that can begin to pay attention to the needs of young people in the future. So my colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you, but as I part away from this stage, I want to encourage each one of us not to tell the story, but to become a story. I want to encourage the young people in the back to seize the moment and believe that the future is not tomorrow, the future is now. This whole idea of being at crossroads is no longer there. We are in the crossroads. because innovation has put us there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother VC Futa, for her own presentation. Very quickly, let's celebrate her, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Please permit me to stand on the already well-established protocols. However, I must recognize the founder and chancellor of Afe Babalola University, our father, Baba Afe Babalola, CONOFRSAN, who is also an honorary alumni of the Federal University of Technology, Akure, where I come from. I recognize also the Vice Chancellor, my sister, my friend, Professor Samanda Olaride, and keynote speakers, other resource persons, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by thanking the organizers for the invite. I'm thanking them for the invite because I've also been here. It's given me the privilege of meeting new sets of people and seeing life also in another perspective. So I want to thank you. Learning, they say, is lifelong. And everywhere you are, you must learn something. I've also learned something as I sat here today. I bring you greetings from the Federal University of Technology, Akure. We are not far from here. We've been established since 1981. So we are one of over 270 universities in Nigeria. We have 11 schools. We have about 65 academic departments, including one College of Health Sciences. We have about 30,000 students. We have about 3,000 staff. We have about 12 academic support centers. And we pride ourselves as the best university of technology in Nigeria. I wish to especially thank the keynote speaker, who, when I chatted with him after delivering his lecture, I said he had actually delivered all the lectures and all the points. Thank you so much, sir, for that insightful, well thought out, well delivered lecture. We know I'm supposed to be speaking round about strengthening resilience through health, education, and service. We are still talking about leadership, security, and development. We know that the quality of leadership at times also determine the level of security, which also can have influence on development, as we have seen, and as many of us will be able to relate with. Now, when we take the concept of leadership, security, development all together, we will note that it does have large influence on the society. And when I talk about influence, as has been said by the previous speakers, some of these things will create stress, will create difficulties, toughness, disappointments, and different kind of things, displacements, all of those things. Therefore, to cope at a time like this, we need to have some form of resilience. You know, there's this popular song that they sing at the television stations now. It says, I'm a good Nigerian, resilient Nigerian, accountable Nigerian. How many people have listened and have heard that song? Yeah. So they keep saying resilient Nigerian. And okay, we have to truly be resilient as a Nigerian to be able to cope with all of these things happening around us. So we'll be looking at how to strengthen resilience. Nigerians are doing great all over. A few days ago, precisely on the 19th of September, I read something on the page, on the front page of Punch newspaper, and it says, the longest leadership lesson, that there was a Guinness World Record Award to one Nigerian for the longest leadership lesson. And in my head, I said, it's good to give the lessons, but where is the manifestation of that leadership, the good leadership in our community? We want to see resilience, strengthening resilience, maybe what we can do to make it better. If I want to define resilience, I would simply say it's the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties or toughness, difficulties or toughness. And why is this important? It is basically to mitigate the effect of stress, discouragement, in many cases depression, issues of mental health. Now we know that there are increased incidences of mental health globally, Nigeria inclusive. One of the things that many of us were taught as younger people is that life is not a bed of roses. But as young people, we don't know what it means. We just say it as one of the sayings, life is not a bed of roses. But as we advance, we keep saying that life is full of thorns, so many other things. So we are talking about strengthening our resilience. We are saying we need to be more optimism, self-belief, self-control, willingness to adapt, and all of those kind of things. Let's look at, I'll focus more on the education sector, the health sector. Let's look at some common stressful situations, academic failures. About 5 years ago, a woman walked up to me and said, her child was going to commit suicide because she failed an exam. And I said to her, you need to be very careful. The problem is not actually the exam that the child has failed now, but how will you, and she wanted help so that it was, she failed the JAMB exam and she wanted to commit suicide. She may not get admitted into the university. And I said, what is the problem? What she was thinking is the solution is for the child to gain admission to the university. And I said, well, this is a temporary solution. As far as I am concerned, the child needs more help. And she said, why? I said, once she graduates and she does not find a job, will she commit suicide? If she finds a job and she cannot find husband, will she commit suicide? If she finds husband and she cannot get a child, will she still commit suicide? And if she has children and the children are not doing well, will she commit suicide? So the child needs more than help for admission. The child needs, actually, we need to understand the problem of the child so that we'll be able to help the child. So we can talk about persons with low academic strength. We can talk about issues of discrimination. Many things make people to be discriminated against. So you need to actually strengthen your resilience to be able to mitigate all of these things. If somebody is discriminating against you for whatever reason, what can you do? What will you do? If there are natural flooding, what can you do? I was on a flight to the Gambia once, and as soon as I landed in Dakar, I knew that my luggage was missing. And I was going for a meeting, a 2-day meeting in the Gambia. The luggage was missing. What will I do? These are things that will happen from time to time, and we must have strength to survive, strength to know what to do as we move on. So when we talk about strengthening resilience, we are talking about building capacity for adaptation. Many people have talked about adaptation today. How do you adapt in challenging times? My luggage is lost. I need to adapt. I need to survive for 2 days. Even if the luggage is going to come. Many of us have traveled West Africa. You know that traveling in West Africa can be disjointed. So it's not going to come the next hour. It's not going to even come the next day. So the first thing is, what do I need? Identify what you need. How can I get it? Who can I speak with? And things like that. I will develop the ability to overcome tough times and situations. And it can include those periods I've spoken about. I don't want to go over it again and again. If we develop or if we strengthen our resilience, the advantage for us, even as leaders, is that it gives inner strength to rebound when there are setbacks. It helps us to improve our overall well-being, even as a person. Now talking about resilience building, there are 7 things that I will want to talk about, and then I will just maybe leave. Number 1 is we have to develop our competence skills. That is, skills to manage challenges. As leaders, we face challenges every day. One day, maybe last session, in the night there was rainstorm, and the roof of one of our hostels was blown away in the dead of the night, the female hostel. So what do? The students are already stressed. Their own, because you are sleeping. Imagine you are sleeping on your bed and you just woke up with showers, maybe showers of blessings coming upon you. The students are already stressed. As the head of the institution, getting the news was also stressful. But we had to take a decision at such times. So we need to have skills to manage challenging time. You also need to have confidence in yourself. Confidence that I can do it, confidence that I can provide solution, because you as the leader cannot shiver when others are shivering. The students are already shivering. I cannot be shivering at that point in time. You also need connections, communications, relationship building. When I say connections, I don't mean the way people mean it in Nigeria. You say you have long legs. No, you need to be able to connect with persons who can help solve the problem. You need to be able to communicate as leaders to people who you think can assist you. For example, many people cannot even open communication discussions with people. Do you know how to start communication, productive and engaging communication with other people? You need character, because your character will speak for you when need arises. We also need to develop coping strategies. We need to understand that it is not everything that we can change. That's why some people talk about adaptability. It's not everything that can change. During COVID-19, many of us adapted to a lot of things. So that means you have yourself under control. You can make positive contribution to yourself if you do all of this. Let's look at our health system, because I'm supposed to be focusing on health and education. We are supposed to The COVID-19, like as it's been said, taught us so many things about the fragility of the health system. However, when we talk about building resilience, if you are not healthy as a person, it's difficult even to be resilient when the time arises. When we were in elementary schools or primary schools, all of us had to do what we call PE, physical education. At times we did. Until recently, I didn't know why we needed to do physical education. Many of us would think it's just to do exercise. But the exercise actually is to push you beyond what you consider as your limit. When your instructor says, do 10 press-ups, maybe you can only do 8. He says, no, you have to do 2 more. You struggle, you're able to do 1 more. The next time, you are able to do 10. It's actually to push us beyond what we think is our limit. And that is also essential when you talk about building resilience. A healthy body is better able to cope even with stress and with some of these factors that can be stressful. But as leaders, we are talking about building resilience. We want to avoid all these disruptions that can come. What can we do? Of course, we've talked about the use of AI, we've talked about the use of technology, but we also need to do more with human resources. For example, we need to have an empowered middle-level leadership. If you want effective system, everything cannot center just round about one person. In our system, generally in Nigeria, everything rests on the leader. But that's why a lot of things fail. A lot of things are not responded to on time because the middle level leadership is missing. We need to strengthen the middle level governance system, empower them so that they can take decisions. We need to improve our surveillance system, improve financing. And when we come to education, we talk about, naturally we know that education will teach us the life skills. It helps us to make good choices. So in the education sector, we also need to begin to think, what can we do differently? The COVID-19 made many of us to think differently. For example, we are now talking about virtual classes. Before now, it's like a taboo. To even get our regulator to agree for open and distant learning mode of study at a time was a problem. But now we know we have to go that direction because life is not going to wait for everybody. Innovation and creativity will help us to approach problems in a new way. We talk about creative thinking in education, like we have the virtual teaching and virtual examinations and all of those things. People used to say that you think outside the box, but these days we say think without the box. You don't even need the box, just think. Think and take decision. Taking risk. You must be able to take risk, experimenting and trying new things. As leaders, not all decisions will be right, but you will have done a lot of injustice if you do not take decision. Let me remind us, something happened in Nigeria not too long ago, where many of us heard about it. The incident at the airlines. You know, we had somebody standing, obstructing the plane from taking off. The pilot took a decision. We also had one, switch off your phone, didn't switch off the phone. The airline operatives took decision. Now, every day I sit down and I ask myself, if I were to be a leader on duty that day, what decision will I take? Will I have taken a different decision from what the decisions they took, from the decision they took on that day? These are all issues. Leaders must be able to think fast, and you must be able to think creatively. So we talk about creative thinking. You have to be able to make connections and join things together. If I go this way, what will happen? If I go that way, what will happen? We must embrace ambiguity. That is, you must know that there is no one way to solve every problem. Even our forefathers told us that there is no one market. There is no market that has only one entrance. So there is no problem that also has only one solution. As leaders, we must be able to embrace ambiguity. We must tolerate uncertainties, and we have to foster creativity. And let me talk about problem-solving skills. The keynote speaker has also mentioned it. The problem-solving skills, we talked about 4 Ps. That is, you must be able to identify the problem, you must be able to plan, you must be able to identify the people, and then the process. And then when I say identify problems, people will say, don't I know my problems? Many times, leaders, if they are not able to think deeply, may not be able to even know the problems. I give an example. If there is a building collapse somewhere, some people will say, why did the building collapse? Some person will say, it's because the right mix of building materials were not used. But is that actually the problem? That is actually, in my view, that is not the problem. The problem is that there was no supervision in the first instance. The problem could be financial. So when we talk about the problem, it's not necessarily the end problem. You have to be able to trace the problem to the root. Is it because we do not have good artisans to work? Is that why the building is collapsing? We have a problem, or maybe what looked like a problem in Nigeria now, the admission of the underage candidates. We are talking about people not going into university before they are 16. Why is it a problem? Some people say it's a problem because my child has finished secondary school, he wants to enter the university. But that's actually not the problem. If we identified our problem as from the elementary school, the primary school, then we will know that the problem is not WAEC, the problem is not even JAMB. The problem is because the policies that were supposed to be put in place, enforced, were not done. And then we have this gap. People finishing secondary school at age 12, age 13, age 14, and thereabout. And that's why the gap is existing. So we must be able to identify the problems. Leadership experts will always say that not every decision will be easy to take. Not every decision will be right, but you must take decisions. Finally, we talked about good leaders. In trying to build resilience, you must have conviction. And when we talk about conviction, I talk about you being self-aware, knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses. Every leader has strength. Every leader has weaknesses. Every individual, not even leaders. So you must know where you are strong, and then you amplify yourself in your strength, and then in your weaknesses, you tend to look for persons to complement your weaknesses. You must also have self-regulation. You have to be firm, but you must be able to regulate yourself. You must have self-motivation, and there must be what we call self-reflection. And every leader, every aspiring leader needs a mentor. You are not there. There is no final destination in leadership. There is no final destination. You can't say, I am already there. You are not there. So everybody is growing. You have somebody you must be looking at. You must have somebody you must be looking to. You must have people you must ask questions. Where can I get more help? Who can I ask this question? It's part of the communication we talked about, communication and connection. You must be ready to serve. And then if you have a good mentor, your mentor will help you to tap even onto some of your potentials. Some of us, as good as it may, there are some things I would think that I will not do. It will take any of my mentors to say, you can do it. You can still go even further. The mentor will help the mentee to develop resilience, further pushing you. The mentor can even guide you, can provide counsel, he can inspire, and then he can also provide more information. As a vice chancellor, any of my mentors will tell me where I can get solutions to my problems. They can tell me, you can go to this place, they can fund whatever it is that you are looking to be funded. They can tell me, if you talk to this person, we can provide this type of solution for you. That is part of the role of the mentor. And I will close by saying that the society is greatly influenced by the quality of leadership. That had been said by all the speakers. And talking about resilience, I would also like to remind us that stress and stressors are part of life. There is no way we will not have stress as aspiring leaders and as leaders also. The need to strengthen resilience, we continue to develop it. You cannot, like I said earlier on, you cannot say that you are there already. In fact, if you read the success story of anybody, you will see resilience there. There is nobody, I repeat, who is successful that does not have times where he had shown some form of resilience to some form of stress. So I think that this, with the issue of strengthening our resilience is achievable. Finally, you know, when the keynote speaker was speaking, he raised something that have been ringing in my head. He said, leaders are made, they are not born. I will say that I want to disagree a little bit. Because culturally in Africa, in Yoruba land where I come from, the Olori Ebi is born, is not made. I don't know if other people will agree with me. The head of the family is the firstborn male. Whether he knows book, whether he does not know book, whether he's intelligent, whether he's not intelligent, he is the Olori Ebi. So he is born the leader in that family. And in many ways, direct the affairs of the family, even at times in ignorance. I also agree that in some cases, leaders are born, in quotes, because in some organizations, the most senior becomes the leader. In the Ministry of Education, for example, if anything happens to maybe the permanent secretary had to leave or something, they say hand over to the most senior person, and then the person becomes the leader. Not necessarily because he possesses all the leadership skills or the most qualified, but because he's just the most senior. So at times, I don't know where to belong, whether leaders are born, whether leaders are made. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for the attention and again the invite.
Thank you so very much. Our dear VC, we appreciate you. We'll come back to the issue of leadership. It's a continuous discussion. And the Olori Ebi issue, we will debate it further. I want to pass the microphone to Professor Olawi to take care of the rest, particularly the question and answer session. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much. As our distinguished Vice Chancellor from FUTA was speaking, as Professor Adenike Oladiji, she asked some questions. She said, leadership is not easy. Finding transformational leaders is difficult. In fact, transformational leaders are rare. And she mentioned some of the characteristics or attributes. Resilience. Transformational leaders have integrity, innovation, dignity, empathy, nurturing. And as she said those attributes, it crossed my mind immediately that we are very fortunate to have that leader with us. Our own distinguished Vice Chancellor, Professor Elizabetha Smaranda Olarinde. You will agree with me, she possesses all those attributes. If you do, a standing ovation for her, please. She is nurturing, she is caring, she is a mentor, she has integrity, she has dignity, empathy, innovation, she is rare, she is special, she is a mother, she is the best of the best. She is a true leader, a transformational leader. Thank you very much, our Vice Chancellor. Thank you. Thank you so much. You see, it is rare to find transformational leaders. So whenever you find them, you better celebrate them. And I think on that note, I want to ask our speakers just one question before I pass it on. How then can we produce more of such transformational leaders? We live in a world whereby students are hardly motivated to learn. The Vice President of TWU, Professor Lade, talked about how artificial intelligence is even, instead of it being seen as an opportunity, is almost becoming a threat, making students lazy. In a world whereby mentorship is rare, in a world whereby transformational leadership is rare, what is the way forward? So I will start, of course, from the right, and I will ask my speakers to address this issue of looking forward. What should we prioritize? How can we produce more transformational leaders in this country?
Thank you, Prof. I think the most important is to first of all identify the talent in an individual. You know, when you identify somebody, maybe he or she likes playing with tools, you quickly develop him or her. Maybe you want him to be an engineer, and so on and so forth. The Vice Chancellor mentioned something too, that leaders are born, and she concluded as if maybe she's even confused. She doesn't know which one to take. Because she was flowing when she was trying to say, she linked it to how Yorubas take their own leadership. For instance, as Olori Ebi is born, she's very correct. But there are certain areas where a leader needs to be trained, which means a leader may not be born after all, because you need to infuse certain things in him or her to make him develop and transform him. And that will be a continuum, because when he realized that, oh, my parents taught me how to do this, definitely I have to impart on my children. And my children will also impart on their own children. And on. It shows that I wanted to interject that time. I said, maybe some leaders are born, while some are actually trained to be leaders. So I think doing that we can.
Thank you very much. I can tell that Professor Oladiji would like to respond to that. So maybe I'll just pass the mic to you right away.
Okay. Thank you very much. I am not confused. That there is the possibility of both. But even if somebody, like you said, sir, if somebody is a born leader, in quote, still requires some form of tutelage. It's not going to happen by accident. Leadership many times do not happen by accident. It is deliberate. Let's take the issue of the king, the African king, for example. It may look like they are born, but they are born and they are trained to perform as king. When they are born, they live in the palace. And then in the palace, they are taught the traditions and they are taught the ways of the king. How the king sits, how the king eats, what the king does. So what I think is important for us to get here today is that to be a leader requires that you get some knowledge, you get some training. It's not going to happen by accident. Even if you are Olori Ebi, the person that is born Olori Ebi, who ordinarily should understudy the Olori Ebi that is outgoing before he becomes Olori Ebi. Even if you are the firstborn male, you don't become the Olori Ebi the day you were born. You probably become Olori Ebi by the time you are 20, 25, because there will be one Olori Ebi acting or functioning before you grow up. So the person will naturally be trained. So what I want us to take home is that in trying to produce more leaders, we should talk about training, knowledge, and then mentorship. One question I often ask our students is, how did the first class rep emerge? You know, when we are from the education sector, you admit students, maybe 50 students, 100 students into a stream. And then one day you enter the class, you say, who's the class rep? And they all point to somebody that this is our class rep. They don't know each other, they didn't come from the same school, they didn't come from the same background. But even at that, somebody will emerge as their leader. I have tried over time to study how did these leaders emerge. Number one, I have found that such leaders have more information than the other members of the class. So probably when that one comes in, he goes about to find out, where do I do course registration? Where can I fetch water? Maybe the hostel leader. Where can I get this type of thing and that? And then when another person is having that problem, he says, do it like this, do it like this. So automatically, when they are looking for the leader, he just emerges as the leader. Somebody is asking, where is our lecture room? He says, I already know the place. Because he had gone further to look for information. So whoever is going to be a leader, correct leader, transformational leader, must first have knowledge. It is that knowledge that's naturally going to propel you and stand you at an advantage over your contemporaries. I stop here for now.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chancellor, Professor Oladiji. I think ABUAD has two things in common with Trinity Western. Of course, we have a lot of things in common, but I'll mention just two. Trinity Western is a private university like ours. But secondly, Trinity Western is a liberal Christian university. So you do place emphasis on the role of religion in transformational leadership. So the question would be, how do we ensure future leaders have that highest level of integrity, ethics, moral compass that will cure some of the problems we've been discussing today? I know that's a lot, but I hope you will be able to unpack some of those. Thank you.
I wonder if Dr. Lied is online too, he can step in. But to answer this question, I have to go back to the founder of this university. I want to imagine that when he sold everything in London and left the UK to come to this country, return home, he had a vision of transforming this nation. I look at him as a servant leader who took everything he had and wanted to invest in the future generation of this nation. And truly, when I think of him, that's the best example I can have. That when you think about transformational leaders, you're thinking about the founder of this university, giving up everything to transform a nation. And more than that, pulling the best minds in Africa. I'm sitting here in this university today, being reminded that this university holds some of the top minds in Africa. It's ranked the top in Nigeria. It's ranked number 4 in Africa and number 84 in the world. That speaks of a leader who had a vision to transform not just this nation, but the global community.
Thank you very much. Maybe Dr. Phil Lade will be able to jump in if he's with us to also further the points that Dr. George has made about leadership being sacrificial, visionary, and he used the example of our own father and founder to buttress that. So perhaps Dr. Lade will be able to speak to how we can further develop such ethical leadership, especially in the age of technology and artificial intelligence.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Oladini Eniola Jumoke. I'm a postgraduate student, a master's student of international relations and diplomacy from the College of Social and Management Sciences. I have 2 questions. What lessons can be learned from successful leadership models in Africa or globally? And the second question is, what approaches can be taken to address the root causes of insecurity and promote stability in Nigeria? Thank you.
Do we have more questions from the House so that we can run all of them together?
I didn't understand.
More questions from the floor? Thank you.
All right. We had the question. Please, if you have any.
I heard the second one, but the first one I didn't.
Yes, so we will just go around and you can please feel free to answer any of the 2 questions as you deem fit. Yes.
Can you try to repeat the first question? What is the first question?
I think my mic is working.
It's working, go ahead.
Yeah.
Successful leader.
Yes. Olajumoke, thank you for your question. The second one, approaches to solving insecurity. I think insecurity is insecurity everywhere in the world. But in particular, in Nigeria, I keep asking myself why we should find ourselves where we are today in terms of insecurity. Well, we are discussing about leadership. Some of us, when we were very young, there are certain things in terms of ethics that we were taught. Sometimes when I look at myself as I grew up, even up to the kitchen, when you are with your mother, I remember vividly When my mother is cooking soup, I say, Mama, I want to taste soup. For your mother, you want to learn how to steal. What she will do is say, come and take soup. She will now hold your hand here that you cannot run away. She will fill the spoon and pour it in that your hand and hold it there and make sure the thing burns you very well. What you have done is learning in a hard way. And as Yoruba will say, ọmọdé ṣeré lọ bí iná, ọ̀dọ̀ ẹni tó ń lọ kì í ṣọ̀lẹ. The fire will teach you a lesson. What I'm saying here is that we have lost on our ethos. We are no more teaching our children. And when they grow up, they take into different types of vices. In this university, I learned some students, they smoke Igbo. Not only here, all universities. What will make you to go and be smoking Igbo? And when you smoke Igbo, what do you become? You will not get yourself right. You can do anything. What we are saying here is that we still need training for our children. That is number one. So that they don't take to vices that are not going to be good for their future. I will still come to leadership. Corruption everywhere. If Afe Babalola is not a disciplined individual, we will not be sitting down here today discussing about leadership in this university. Not to talk of affiliating to a very unique and very popular university somewhere in Canada. What we are saying is that leadership, we have to live by example. A lot of things are happening today. Even in the Boko Haram enclave there, we still see very senior officers selling arms and ammunition to Boko Haram. What is that leader teaching us? What is he teaching the younger ones? There are a lot of things that the leaders have to do. To politicians in this country today, I don't want to mention names, but all over the place we are seeing what they are doing. People are even killing to get to power. And during elections, you see that the right person will not be pronounced as the winner of the election. I don't want to mention names, but there are a lot of things that are happening. If such people get to the position of leadership, what would they do? Yoruba will say, "Bo se wa lo se rin." As it you got it, that is how you lost it. So what we are saying here is that our leaders really need to, display a lot of discipline in themselves so that the followers will also know that this is where we are going. And for security, we need to rejig. A lot of things are happening. Go to Kaduna, where I came from. I cannot drive out of my house after 6 p.m. because I don't know what may happen. And look at the former Kaduna State Governor. When the other time when he just came to power, he told us some people invited Boko Haram to come and take over power from an incumbent if he refuses to hand over power. such a leader? What are you taking from him? What are you learning from him? A lot of things are happening. The issue of insecurity is not what we can just discuss in one full, space like that. We need to really talk to our leaders. We have religious leaders who go to Boko Haram enclave, discuss with them, and of course, what is that kind of leader teaching us? I'm happy the other time when he went to this, the religious leader, when he went to Mecca, he was sent back to Nigeria. That is a leader in this country. What is he teaching his congregation? What is he teaching his followers? There are a lot of things that we need to do to ensure that insecurity is knocked out in this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Quickly, I'll just respond to that very simply. I have taught leadership in graduate school for the last 15 years at Trinity Western University. We have students from over 90 countries that come to our university. And I wish I can look at you and talk about great leaders with great names, with great powers. But that's not what I want to talk to you about. The leaders I think of are different. When I ask my graduate students, tell me where you learned how to lead, they always bring it back to home. I learned it from my mother. I learned it from my father. So I encourage each one of us here, I encourage my fellow professors here, when we talk about leadership, let's just not talk leadership, let's live leadership. Because leadership begins at home. And if we can model ethical, good, integral leadership, that is more powerful than the names and the people appointed that we see up there. So, as you leave this place today, as a professor, as a parent, I want you to begin to lead your children. I want you to be the example that they need to talk about when they go to society and they ask, where did you learn how to lead? I learned it from mom, I learned it from dad. And that's the message I get from my graduate students.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I will start again from where the previous speaker stopped, talking about leadership starting from home. Yesterday, I was speaking with our student union leaders, and I said, made mention of something. And I said, if I give my children food at home, they have the necessity to say thank you, because it is not a right. It looks like it should be a right, but I keep telling them, some people gave birth to the people we call almanjiris, who go about sourcing food by themselves. So leadership actually starts from home. That's again what I want to emphasize. It starts from home. Everybody needs to train the children the way you think is nice or is good for them to behave outside, and that when they become leaders, they should behave. My mother taught me how to say thank you, and it has stuck with me. If my driver drives me and we get home, I say thank you. Some people say he's doing his work or he has done his job, but if he doesn't do it, well, I might get angry, but I'll still not be happy. Those of us that have taken the red buses in London, you know, at times even when you stop, though you have paid, you still say thank you, driver. Even though you paid, you still say thank you, driver. I think this culture is something that many of us will have to, first of all, learn from home. And then talking about insecurity and leadership. The expert has spoken, but I think one of the causes, why there will be people with dissenting thinking line, the issue of joblessness may also be contributing significantly. We need leaders who are able to think to create jobs. And if I look at the health sector, for example, when people go to our public hospitals, for example, maybe the relation of the sick person still has to stay there to provide the support. Why do we not organize something like a caregiving sector? If I have a patient in the hospital, I'm the one who is going to look for the money to take care of the patient. So why can't I be able to get somebody who will stand in for me at a fee? And if government or whoever is in charge of the hospital organizes that kind of thing, it would have created jobs for some people. So if I have a patient in the hospital, the person is spending 3 days, even if I'm not able to be there in 3 days, I know somebody is paid to stay and look after that person. And in that way, we would have created some form of job. I would be able to stay on my job without giving unnecessary excuses. Oh, I have patients in the hospital and all of those things. So we need leaders who are able to think to also create jobs without necessarily increasing their own wage bill. Because if I organize this kind of thing, it is the patient's relative that will pay the customer. But I've created a line of job for that person. And then finally, when we talk about leaders, the lady has about attributes that we can, lessons from successful leaders. I will just say there are so many successful transformational leaders in different areas. So you cannot actually point to one person. I don't teach leadership. But one thing I've discovered is if this person is good in this area, he may be weak in another area. So you need a lot of these people to study. And then you bring out the qualities of each of them and put all of them together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, you will agree with me that we've had a very stimulating and enriching panel session. And I want to really appreciate our discussants, the representative of Major General A.K. Ibrahim OFR, the commandant of the Nigerian Defense Academy, our own friend and colleague, Dr. Phil Lade, Vice President of TWU Canada, Dr. Ibenzi George, a converted Nigerian and a friend of ABUAD, as well as last, of course, but not the least, our distinguished Vice Chancellor from the Federal University of Technology, Akure, Professor Adenike Temidayo Oladiji. A round of applause for them, please. Let me, on this note, invite our leader, our distinguished Vice Chancellor, Professor Elizabeth Smaranda Olarinde, to please appreciate our guest with a token from the university. May I also invite Victor Okwigo, the representative of Times Higher Education, to join us on stage. Please, thank you very much. We appreciate your time, your intellect, your energy, and for sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you very much, my very distinguished, learned colleague, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, for a job well done, well delivered. We are very grateful to our guest speaker. Please, our guest speaker, if you could honor us, kindly come forward. Let's give a round of applause for that stimulative, erudite, in-depth, rich delivery that we all listened this morning. My students in the house, you are very lucky. These opportunities did not come along our way when we grew up, but you have it all. Take advantage, grab every opportunity, and make sure you use it for yourself and others. On this note, on behalf of the entire university, and especially our highly distinguished and revered founder, Afe Babalola, the Bamofi of Yoruba land, the grandfather, the father, the mentor of many, many of us, much, much more than those in this hall. Thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s that we passed through his tutelageship. On his behalf and on behalf of his amiable wife, who is always supportive. She made it happen. This beautiful hall has been decorated according to her class and test. On this note, what can we say? You came to share with us the most invaluable gift that you have, your in-depth understanding, your experience, the knowledge of culture, tradition, and how it works in this part of the world. We thank you. We are deeply, deeply encouraged to do much, much more. And on this note, nobody comes to Afe Babalola University and goes back the same way. We are grateful. And not only that, we are giving you a token of our appreciation. Take a bit from us with you, as you left a lot of out of you, yourself, your fabrics with us. Thank you so much. And I will call now on my students to please kindly, let's appreciate. It's just a token. And everything has been customized. The test is Yeye Are Modupe Babalola's test, our mother here in the university. On this note, my students, I do believe that you had a good time. Is that so? Let us give a round of applause for the leaders who are training us to be better leaders. God bless you. Thank you. And yes, thank you.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are ending up, but before we so do, this is a tripartite program. We have our friend, brother from Doba University of Technology, South Africa, Dr. Omololu Fagbadebo. He has a word or two for the House inside of 3 minutes. Thank you, sir. Use this one.
The Chancellor, Afe Babalola, the Vice Chancellor of the University, and other principal officers, I bring you greetings from the Durban University of Technology in South Africa. We are a worthy partner of this university in terms of collaboration, research, and postgraduate studies. And we will continue to foster this relationship to advance knowledge and to produce quality leadership both in the academics and in society. Thank you and congratulations.
Walk yo, make angano kios, walk yo, walk yo.
Go lower, go lower, go lower, do this thing. Is this how you hold? Hold around, Jerry. How many weeks ago? How many? Leave it. Look at them. Rubbish. Dirty charlatans. We the rich, we the influential, we the powerful. This is how we live. They starve while we fill our bellies. They suffer. They wear wretched clothes while we wear the best, the designers, the fashionable. That is how we, the powerful, we, the elite, that is how we live. You there, come and squat. Let me sit down and count my money. Rubbish. Watch me as I count my not so hard-earned money.
Oga, I never chop since last week. I beg. My tummy just dey do. I beg, I want see something chop. I beg. Oga.
What? You want this?
Yes.
This. Take. That's it. You have the effort. The boss to move up me. Nonsense. Oga, did you just touch me? Did you just touch me?
For 2 years, my children never goes.
Those your children at home that are not in school, bring them here to come and work. Don't touch me. You touch me again. You just touch me.
Enough of tyranny. We are tired of your wickedness. Enough is enough. Enough of tyranny. We are tired of your wickedness. Enough is enough. Enough of tyranny. We are tired of your wickedness.
We need a new leader. Me? I don't have the power. I don't know anybody. I don't have connections.
Don't worry.
Okay. Sounds good. All right.
Together we are stronger. Together we are stronger. Together we are bigger. Together we can achieve everything. Together we are
Together we are stronger. Together we are bigger. Together we are stronger. Together we are
bigger. Together we can achieve everything. Together we are
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me that we have had a long day, but a successful day too. In rounding off, may I, with your permission, invite the founder of this university, the thoroughly distinguished Afe Babalola, to please be kind enough to make his way to this side of the arena for the closing remarks for this wonderful international conference this year. Let's put our hands together for the founder, please. Ably represented.
Of course, there is the one and only Afe Babalola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Commander of the Order of Niger, Officer of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Doctor of Letters, LLD, Honoris Causa, London. And I have the very tough task of presenting his remarks. The text of the address by the Chancellor and founder at the 2025 International Leadership Conference held at Afe Babalola University in collaboration with Trinity Western University. Standing on existing protocol. I have listened with great attention to the very powerful and erudite submissions of today's keynote speaker, Dr. Otive Igbuzor. And having followed his brilliant advocacy and record of national service over the years, I am not surprised by his comprehensive and incisive presentation. In true ABUAD tradition, let me ask all of you to please rise and sing our usual thank you song in appreciation of our distinguished keynote speaker. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Please sit. I would also like to appreciate all the panelists and speakers, our guests from Times Higher Education, our Vice Chancellor from the Federal University of Technology, Akure, our guests from Trinity Western University, King's College London, the Band University of Technology, Association of African Universities, for their exceptional contributions to the success of today's lecture. I must say that I fully align with all your wonderful contributions. In 2019, when I received the Chief Obafemi Awolowo Prize for Leadership, becoming the third individual to receive the award after Professor Wole Soyinka in 2012 and Thabo Mbeki in 2014, I made a public commitment in my acceptance speech to continue to advocate for transformational leadership in Nigeria. You will recall that I published a book titled The Elusive Search for Nation Nigeria, in which I outlined the manifesto for transformational leadership. 10 principles, and I would like to share these principles with you as we close today. Principle 1, to solve the problems facing our country, true federalism is a necessary precondition. We must return to an era whereby we provide opportunities for the regions and the states to grow. A transformational leader must commit to true federalism. Principle 2, full constitutional restructuring of Nigeria is a national priority. We need transformational leaders that will commit to restructuring Nigeria so that life will be better for all. Principle 3, single 6-year tenure for the office of the president and governors, as it is practiced in many parts of the world, is required to prevent the trend of lack of transparency in which people will do all they can to remain in office. Principle 4, we need qualified leaders. Qualification and remuneration of political officers must be streamlined. We need competent, qualified leaders who possess humility and responsibility and commitment to service. Principle 5, as I have always said, we need to return to clear party ideology. We need people who will be in political parties to serve and not switch from one party to the other, which has been a problem in this country. Principle 6, we need electoral reform to ensure independence and transparency. The electoral bodies should be truly independent and impartial so that we can indeed elect the best people to lead us. Principle 7, education is the greatest cure to ignorance and disease. Educational reform is therefore important. I call on government at all levels to rededicate themselves to funding education. Poor funding of education over the years has been a major problem. The UNESCO recommends a budget of at least 26% to education, which we have struggled over the years to meet. And that funding should also go to private universities like ours, doing the best we can to change the world. You have heard from Times Higher Education. We are number 1 in Nigeria, and we will continue to grow and grow. So education is important if we want to produce transformational leaders. Principle 8 is agriculture. We need to return back to an era where we pay attention to agriculture, and that is why we have every year the Afe Babalola Prize for agriculture and farming. So we need to return back to the era of green revolution whereby we pay attention to agriculture. Principle 9 is the need to address population explosion. Our population is growing and we need to deal decisively with this explosion, which is affecting the quality of life. And principle 10 is the need for citizen education. All the points you have made today emphasize the need to sensitize our citizens. Just as we need transformational leaders, we also need responsible followers and citizens that will take pride in serving the country and making the world a better place. In conclusion, these 10 principles of transformational leadership that I have elaborated provide timely tools for identifying leaders that can move Nigeria out of the current state we are in. But transformation is not easy. We need sustained courage, commitment, and effort to ensure that we move in the right direction. And I know, looking at the room today, we have exceptional students and people who will move us forward in this country towards an era of transformational leadership. Let me end by thanking our ever-reliable Vice Chancellor, Professor Smaranda Olarinde, the planning team, Professor Bayo Ogundipe, Professor Adenura Afolalu, and all of you that have contributed to the success of today's conference. We are very proud of you. We thank you, and I wish you all safe journeys back to your destinations. God bless you all.